Endemic wildlife, their unique importance for nature as a whole. This article provides a summary of its contents in the following manner: 1. Introduction. 2. Examples of endemic wildlife. 3. Importance of endemic wildlife for nature. 4. Quotes and sources. 5. Challenges and solutions. 6. Conclusion. 1. Introduction. Endemic wildlife is the ultimate symbol of biodiversity, evolution, and adaptation. These species are found nowhere else in the world, and they play a critical role in maintaining the delicate balance of nature. From the unique flora and fauna of isolated islands to the rare and elusive creatures of remote mountain ranges, endemic species are the jewels of our planet's ecosystems. But why are these species so important, and what can we learn from them? In this article, we'll explore the world of endemic wildlife and their significance for nature as a whole. We'll delve into the unique qualities of these species, their role in the food chain and ecosystem balance, and the impact of their loss on the environment and climate. We'll also examine the cultural and economic significance of endemic wildlife and the challenges they face in a rapidly changing world. So join us on a journey to discover the wonders of endemic wildlife and learn why these species are worth protecting for generations to come. Did you know that there are some species of animals and plants that are found nowhere else in the world? These are known as endemic species, and they are incredibly unique and special. But why should we care about them? In this article, we'll explore the importance of endemic wildlife and their role in the bigger picture of nature. Imagine a world where every living thing is the same, where no two animals or plants have distinct qualities or characteristics. Sounds boring, doesn't it? Well, that's exactly what could happen if we don't protect endemic wildlife. These species are like the jewels of nature, each one precious and irreplaceable. In this article, we'll take a closer look at why these unique creatures are so important and what we can do to save them. Endemic species are those that are found only in one particular geographic location, such as an island or a specific region of a continent. Because they have evolved in isolation from other populations, they often have distinctive physical and behavioral characteristics that make them different from other species. This makes them incredibly important to study and protect, as they provide valuable insights into the diversity of life on Earth and the way that species evolve and adapt over time. Endemic wildlife are like the canaries in the coal mine of nature. They are often the first to be affected by environmental changes, such as habitat loss or climate change, and can serve as an early warning system for the health of ecosystems. By studying and protecting endemic species, we can learn more about the complex web of life on Earth and take steps to preserve it for future generations. 2. Description and examples of endemic wildlife. Endemic wildlife refers to species of plants and animals that are native to and restricted to a particular geographic region or ecosystem, and are not found naturally anywhere else in the world. These species are often the result of long-term isolation, geographic barriers, or other unique circumstances that have allowed them to evolve and adapt to their specific environments. Endemic wildlife can be found in a variety of ecosystems, including islands, mountain ranges, rainforests, deserts, and even underground caves. These unique ecosystems often have distinct physical and biological characteristics, such as unique soils, climates, and natural features that contribute to the evolution of endemic species. For example, the Galapagos Islands are known for their high level of endemism, with over 80% of their plant and animal species found nowhere else in the world. The island's isolation and harsh environmental conditions have led to the development of unique species such as the marine iguana, giant tortoise, and the Galapagos penguin. Similarly, The mountainous regions of the Andes in South America have high levels of endemism due to the isolated and fragmented nature of the habitat. The cloud forests of the Andes are home to species such as the spectacled bear, mountain tapir, and the rare yellow-tailed woolly monkey. Endemic species play a vital role in the ecosystems they inhabit. They are often keystone species, meaning that they have a disproportionately large impact on their environment compared to their abundance. For example, the island fox of the Channel Islands in California is a keystone species that helps to control the population of invasive species such as feral cats, which would otherwise devastate the local ecosystem. Moreover, endemic species also contribute to the cultural and economic value of their respective ecosystems. They are often iconic symbols of the region and are essential for ecotourism, which provides a source of income for local communities. Despite their importance, endemic species face many threats, including habitat loss, climate change, overharvesting, and invasive species. Thus, there is an urgent need for conservation efforts to protect these species and their unique ecosystems. The physical characteristics and behaviors of endemic wildlife are often unique and adapted to their specific environment. Here are some examples of how endemic species have adapted to their environment. Camouflage. Many endemic species have developed camouflage to blend in with their surroundings and avoid predators. For example, the Galapagos penguin has developed dark plumage that helps it blend in with the dark volcanic rocks on the islands. Reduced. Endemic species that inhabit isolated environments with limited resources often evolve smaller body sizes. This adaptation helps them to conserve energy and resources. For example, the Madagascan pygmy chameleon is only a few centimeters long and can fit on the tip of a finger. Unique body shapes. Some endemic species have developed unique body shapes to adapt to their environment. For example, the kiwi bird of New Zealand has a long beak that it uses to probe the ground for insects, and the Galapagos tortoise has a saddle-shaped shell that allows it to stretch its neck to reach higher branches. Specialized diets. Endemic species have developed specialized diets to survive in their unique environment. For example, the Darwin's finches of the Galapagos Islands have developed different beak shapes to eat different types of seeds, while the lemurs of Madagascar have adapted to eat the toxic leaves of certain trees. Unique behaviors. Endemic species have also developed unique behaviors to survive in their environment. For example, the Galapagos marine iguanas have developed the ability to swim and dive in the ocean to feed on underwater algae. The physical characteristics and behaviors of endemic wildlife are essential to their survival and contribute to the biodiversity of the ecosystems they inhabit. By studying these unique adaptations, we can learn more about how species evolve and adapt to changing environments, which can inform conservation efforts and help protect these precious species for generations to come. Endemic wildlife faces a range of challenges that threaten their survival, including habitat loss. Endemic species are often restricted to specific habitats, which are often under threat from human activities such as deforestation, mining, and urbanization. Habitat loss can lead to fragmentation of populations, making it difficult for endemic species to find suitable habitat and food. Climate change. Endemic species are particularly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, which can alter their habitat and disrupt their breeding patterns. For example, rising temperatures can lead to the loss of sea ice habitats that the Arctic fox depends on. Invasive species. Invasive species can pose a significant threat to endemic species by competing for resources and introducing diseases. For example, rats and cats have devastated populations of endemic birds on islands such as New Zealand and Hawaii. Overexploitation. Endemic species are often targeted for hunting, poaching, and the wildlife trade, which can drive them to extinction. For example, the illegal trade in ivory and rhino horn has decimated populations of elephants and rhinos in Africa. Lack of conservation funding and attention. Endemic species often receive less conservation funding and attention compared to more well-known or charismatic species, making it difficult to implement effective conservation measures. These challenges are compounded by other threats such as pollution, habitat degradation, and human-wildlife conflict. As a result, many endemic species are now endangered or critically endangered, and their loss would have significant ecological and cultural consequences. It is therefore essential that we prioritize the conservation of endemic wildlife, protect their habitats, and address the root causes of their decline. 3. Importance of endemic wildlife for nature. Endemic wildlife plays a critical role in the food chain and ecosystem balance of their respective habitats. As part of a complex web of interactions, even small changes to the populations of endemic species can have significant impacts on the broader ecosystem. Endemic species can occupy different positions in the food chain, from producers, such as plants and algae, to herbivores, carnivores, and decomposers. For example, endemic plant species can provide food and shelter for herbivorous animals, which in turn can provide prey for carnivores. In addition, some endemic species play a crucial role in maintaining ecosystem processes such as pollination and nutrient cycling. The loss of endemic species can have cascading effects on the food chain and ecosystem balance. For example, the extinction of pollinators can lead to a decline in plant populations, which in turn can impact the survival of herbivores and predators that rely on those plants for food. Similarly, the loss of a top predator can lead to an increase in the populations of prey species, which can overgraze or outcompete other species, altering the balance of the ecosystem. In addition to their ecological roles, endemic species also have cultural significance for local communities, who often have traditional knowledge and practices related to these species. The loss of endemic species can therefore have social and cultural impacts as well as ecological ones. Protecting endemic species is therefore not only important for their own survival but also for the health and resilience of ecosystems and the communities that depend on them. By conserving endemic species, we can help maintain the balance of nature and preserve the unique diversity of life on our planet. Endemic wildlife has a significant impact on the environment and climate in their respective habitats. These species are adapted to their specific ecological niches and play important roles in regulating ecosystem processes, such as nutrient cycling and carbon storage. As such, the loss of endemic species can have far-reaching consequences for the environment and climate. One of the most important ways that endemic species impact the environment is through the maintenance of biodiversity. High levels of biodiversity can enhance ecosystem resilience and productivity, making them more resistant to disturbances such as climate change, pollution, and disease outbreaks. Endemic species are often specialized and unique, meaning that they contribute to the overall diversity of their ecosystems and can provide valuable genetic resources for future conservation efforts. In addition, endemic species can also have direct impacts on the carbon cycle and climate regulation. For example, endemic plant species can sequester carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and store it in their tissues, contributing to carbon sequestration and mitigating climate change. Similarly, endemic species such as mangroves and salt marshes play important roles in coastal carbon sequestration, reducing the impacts of sea level rise and ocean acidification. Endemic species can also have indirect impacts on the environment and climate through their interactions with other species. For example, endemic predators can regulate the populations of prey species, preventing overgrazing and reducing the impacts of climate change on vegetation. Similarly, endemic herbivores can maintain the health and diversity of ecosystems by preventing the dominance of any one species. Endemic wildlife has significant impacts on the environment and climate through their roles in maintaining biodiversity, regulating ecosystem processes, and mitigating the impacts of climate change. Protecting these species is therefore critical for maintaining the health and resilience of our planet's ecosystems and for ensuring a sustainable future for all. Endemic wildlife also has important benefits to humans, including cultural and economic significance. From a cultural perspective, endemic species are often deeply embedded in the traditions and beliefs of local communities. They may play a significant role in art, music, storytelling, and other cultural expressions. In many cases, endemic species are considered sacred or have cultural or spiritual significance, and their loss can lead to the erosion of cultural traditions and practices. In addition to their cultural significance, endemic species can also have significant economic value. Many endemic species are harvested or consumed by humans, providing important sources of food, medicine, and other products. For example, the bark of the Pacific yew tree, which is endemic to the Pacific Northwest region of the United States, contains a chemical that is used to treat certain types of cancer. Similarly, the kauri tree, which is endemic to New Zealand, is highly valued for its timber, which is used in construction and furniture making. Furthermore, endemic species can also contribute to ecotourism, generating revenue for local communities and supporting conservation efforts. Many people travel to see endemic wildlife in their natural habitats, providing a source of income for local tour operators, guides, and other businesses. Endemic wildlife has important cultural and economic benefits for humans, including contributions to local traditions, sources of food and medicine, and opportunities for ecotourism. These benefits highlight the importance of protecting these species and their habitats for the well-being of both humans and the environment. 4. Quotes and sources. Expert opinions and perspectives on endemic wildlife vary depending on the individual and their field of study. However, there is a general consensus among scientists, conservationists, and policymakers that endemic species are critical components of healthy ecosystems and that their protection is essential for the long-term sustainability of our planet. Many experts emphasize the importance of preserving biodiversity as a whole, recognizing that endemic species are often particularly vulnerable to extinction due to their limited geographic ranges and specialized ecological requirements. They argue that protecting endemic species can help to maintain the resilience and productivity of ecosystems, promoting sustainability and the well-being of both humans and wildlife. Other experts focus on the cultural and economic importance of endemic species, recognizing the vital role that these species play in supporting local communities and preserving traditional knowledge and practices. They argue that the loss of endemic species can have far-reaching social and economic impacts, particularly in regions where these species are deeply embedded in the cultural fabric. Experts agree that endemic wildlife is a critical component of our planet's natural heritage and that their conservation is a global priority. By working together to protect these species and their habitats, we can ensure a sustainable future for both humans and the environment. Here are a few quotes from conservationists, scientists, and other stakeholders on the importance of endemic wildlife. Endemic species are the living legacy of evolution on Earth, they are the natural heritage of our planet, and they are irreplaceable. Christiana Pasca Palmer, Executive Secretary of the Convention on Biological Diversity. The loss of endemic species is not just an ecological tragedy, it's a human tragedy. We lose cultural heritage, livelihoods, and a connection to the natural world that is fundamental to our well-being. Russ Mittermeier, primatologist and conservationist. Endemic species are like the canaries in the coal mine. They are often the first to feel the effects of environmental change, and their loss can be a warning sign of deeper problems in the ecosystem. Andrew Bomford, professor of conservation science at the University of Cambridge. Endemic species are the building blocks of healthy ecosystems, and their loss can have cascading effects on the entire food chain. We need to protect these species if we want to maintain the balance and resilience of our planet's ecosystems. Gretchen Daly, professor of environmental science at Stanford University. Endemic species are a source of wonder, inspiration, and hope. They remind us of the incredible diversity of life on Earth and of our responsibility to protect it for future generations. Sylvia Earle, marine biologist and oceanographer. These quotes illustrate the deep concern and respect that experts have for endemic wildlife, and the urgent need to protect these species and their habitats. 5. Challenges and solutions. Endemic wildlife faces a range of challenges that threaten their survival, including habitat loss, climate change, invasive species, and overexploitation. Habitat loss is one of the most significant threats facing endemic species. As human populations grow and expand into natural areas, forests, grasslands, and wetlands are destroyed or fragmented, leaving endemic species with nowhere to live. This loss of habitat can also lead to increased competition for resources and reduced genetic diversity, further threatening the survival of endemic species. Climate change is another major challenge facing endemic wildlife. As temperatures rise and weather patterns shift, ecosystems are disrupted, affecting the distribution and abundance of species. Endemic species that are adapted to specific environmental conditions are particularly vulnerable to these changes, as they may not be able to survive in new or altered habitats. Invasive species are another threat to endemic wildlife. Non-native species can outcompete or prey upon endemic species, reducing their populations and changing the composition of ecosystems. Invasive species can also introduce diseases or parasites that endemic species are not equipped to handle, further threatening their survival. Overexploitation, or the unsustainable harvesting of wildlife for food, medicine, or other purposes, is another threat to endemic species. Overhunting or overfishing can reduce the population sizes of endemic species, making them more vulnerable to other threats such as habitat loss and climate change. Addressing these challenges requires a comprehensive approach that includes habitat protection, climate change mitigation and adaptation, invasive species control, and sustainable harvesting practices. By working to protect endemic species and their habitats, we can help to maintain the biodiversity and ecological resilience of our planet. There are many conservation efforts underway to protect endemic wildlife and their habitats. Here are some examples of solutions and initiatives that are being implemented. Protected areas. Establishing protected areas, such as national parks and wildlife reserves, can help to preserve the habitats of endemic species and prevent habitat loss. These areas can also provide opportunities for ecotourism, which can generate income for local communities and support conservation efforts. Habitat restoration. Restoring degraded or damaged habitats can help to create new homes for endemic species and improve the ecological health of ecosystems. Restoration efforts may include planting native vegetation, removing invasive species, and restoring wetlands or other natural areas. Climate change adaptation. developing and implementing strategies to help endemic species adapt to the impacts of climate change, such as by creating corridors for species to move to more suitable habitats or changing land use practices to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Invasive species control. Controlling or eradicating invasive species that threaten endemic species and their habitats. This may involve techniques such as physical removal, chemical treatments, and biological control. Sustainable harvesting practices. Encouraging sustainable harvesting practices for endemic species that are used for food, medicine, or other purposes. This can include regulating harvest levels, promoting alternative livelihoods, and supporting community-based management of natural resources. Education and awareness. Raising public awareness about the importance of endemic species and their habitats, and promoting responsible behavior among local communities and visitors to protected areas. Education and awareness campaigns can help to build support for conservation efforts and reduce the impacts of activities such as poaching and habitat destruction. Conservation efforts to protect endemic species are often complex and require collaboration between governments, conservation organizations, local communities, and other stakeholders. However, by working together to protect these species and their habitats, we can help to preserve the biodiversity and ecological health of our planet. In addition to conservation efforts, there are also policy changes and individual actions that can make a difference in protecting endemic wildlife and their habitats. Policy changes. Governments can implement policies that support conservation efforts, such as protecting critical habitats, regulating hunting and fishing, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions to address climate change. In addition, policies that promote sustainable land use practices, such as sustainable forestry and agriculture, can help to reduce habitat loss and degradation. Individual actions. Individuals can make a difference by making choices that reduce their impact on the environment and support conservation efforts. For example, reducing energy consumption at home, using public transportation or carpooling, buying sustainably produced products, and supporting conservation organizations can all help to reduce the pressure on endemic species and their habitats. In addition, individuals can participate in citizen science initiatives, such as bird counts or species surveys, to help collect data that can inform conservation efforts. Corporate responsibility. Companies can also play a role in protecting endemic species and their habitats by adopting sustainable business practices and supporting conservation efforts. This can include reducing their carbon footprint, sourcing products sustainably, and investing in conservation initiatives. International cooperation. Endemic species often cross national borders, and protecting them requires international cooperation. Governments can work together to establish transboundary protected areas, share information and best practices, and collaborate on research and monitoring efforts. Protecting endemic wildlife and their habitats requires a comprehensive approach that includes conservation efforts, policy changes, individual actions, corporate responsibility, and international cooperation. By working together, we can help to preserve the biodiversity and ecological health of our planet for future generations. 6. Conclusion. In the face of increasing habitat loss, climate change, and other threats, it is more important than ever to take action to protect endemic wildlife and their habitats. As individuals, we can all play a role in supporting conservation efforts and making a difference for these important species. Here are some ways that you can get involved. Support conservation organizations. There are many organizations working to protect endemic species and their habitats around the world. Consider donating to these organizations or volunteering your time to support their efforts. Reduce your ecological footprint. By making simple changes to reduce your energy consumption, waste production, and use of single-use plastics, you can help to reduce the pressure on endemic species and their habitats. Get involved in citizen science initiatives. Citizen science initiatives allow individuals to participate in research and monitoring efforts that can help inform conservation strategies. Look for opportunities to participate in bird counts, species surveys, and other monitoring programs in your area. Speak out for conservation. Use your voice to raise awareness about the importance of endemic species and their habitats. Talk to your friends and family about conservation issues, share information on social media, and reach out to your elected representatives to advocate for policies that support conservation efforts. Protecting endemic species and their habitats is a complex and challenging task, but it is one that is essential for the health and well-being of our planet. By taking action to support conservation efforts, we can help to preserve these species for generations to come. Here are some organizations that are working to protect endemic wildlife and their habitats. BirdLife International, a global partnership of conservation organizations that work to conserve birds and their habitats. They have programs in place to protect endemic birds in many countries around the world. WWF, a leading conservation organization that works to protect endangered species and their habitats. They have a number of initiatives in place to protect endemic species, including programs focused on forest conservation, marine conservation, and climate change. The Nature Conservancy, a non-profit organization that works to protect lands and waters around the world. They have programs in place to protect a wide range of endemic species and their habitats. UCAN, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, is a global organization that works to conserve nature and biodiversity. They have a red list of threatened species, including many endemic species, and work to protect their habitats. Conservation International, a non-profit organization that works to protect biodiversity hotspots around the world, including areas with high numbers of endemic species. Rainforest Trust, a conservation organization that works to protect threatened tropical forests and their endemic species. They have protected over 23 million acres of tropical habitat around the world. These organizations and many others are doing important work to protect endemic species and their habitats. Consider donating to or volunteering with one of these organizations, or reaching out to learn more about how you can get involved in conservation efforts in your area. In conclusion, endemic wildlife species are truly remarkable and irreplaceable treasures of our planet. They have adapted over millions of years to unique ecological niches and play critical roles in the functioning of ecosystems, from pollinating plants to regulating the food chain. Their cultural and economic significance cannot be overstated, providing local communities with important sources of food, medicine, and livelihoods. However, the threats they face are numerous and severe, from habitat loss and degradation to climate change and invasive species. The continued decline of these species and the loss of their habitats would have dire consequences not only for these species themselves, but for the entire planet. We all have a responsibility to take action to protect endemic species and their habitats, whether through supporting conservation efforts, advocating for policy changes, or taking individual actions to reduce our ecological footprint. By doing so, we can help ensure that future generations are able to experience and appreciate the unique beauty and importance of these species. In the face of ongoing environmental challenges, it can be easy to feel overwhelmed and helpless. However, the reality is that even small actions can make a big difference in protecting endemic species and preserving the natural diversity of our planet. So let us stand together in support of endemic wildlife and work towards a brighter and more sustainable future for all. Thanks for watching.